Is there any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to our first item on the list. Application to rezone the property at 7015 Highway 1 in Coldbrook. This file will be presented to you by Perry Bowman. Ms. Bowman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Packford. Hello everyone, and welcome to our first application of the day. As Deputy Mayor Packford advised, we are here to look at a land use bylaw map amendment or rezoning application for a portion of 7015 Highway 1 in Coldbrook. So just to start off, this is our land use bylaw map amendment process. It starts with receiving a completed application. In this case, this application was received on November 20th, 2024. Following that, we held a public information meeting on the 12th of February, but no members of the public showed up. So since that time, the presentation has been made available online. Following the public information meeting date, a staff review was undertaken, and now we are at the Planning Advisory Committee stage. Following today and the recommendation presented or voted on to move forward with, we will proceed to first reading, where the full Municipal Council will vote on whether to authorise a public hearing. Prior to any authorised public hearing, properties within 500 feet will be notified by mail, and following the public hearing, the full Municipal Council will vote and make a decision on the application. Following that, there is a 14-day appeal period. So, in regards to the proposal, the map on the left-hand side of the screen indicates the area proposed to be rezoned, outlined in green, but we will have more aerial images which will show this further in a moment. So the proposal is to rezone 1.94 acres of the subject property from the heavy industrial M2 zone to the light industrial commercial M1 zone to permit the development of a retail store. So this is a map of the County of Kings with the red circle indicating the approximate location of the subject site within the community of Coldbrook. And this is an aerial image of the subject site, which is outlined in red, but we will note that the area proposed to be rezoned is outlined in yellow. The subject site has a total area of 18.57 acres, whereas as stated before, the area proposed to be rezoned is 1.94 acres in area and is located centrally on the site. The site is located on the northern side of Highway 1 with approximately 1,700 feet of street frontage to Highway 1. The applicant has advised that the area currently proposed to be rezoned the buildings on that portion of the site will be demolished and new construction will be undertaken in that location subject to permits. The provincial hydrology mapping does indicate there is a swamp on the land in this kind of area here. And additionally, the Avery's Farm Market is to the southwest of the subject site, and there is also a range of commercial and industrial uses on the southern side of Highway 1. So this is the zoning map. The current site in its entirety is subsected by two zones. We have the purple triangle, which is the light industrial commercial M1 zone, and then we have the grey area, which is the heavy industrial M2 zone. So you'll note that the area proposed to be rezoned directly abuts the existing light industrial commercial M1 area. The site is surrounded by a range of different uses. We have the residential 1 and 2 zone in kind of the orangey colour. We have the general commercial C1 zone in red, the commercial recreation P1 zone in green, and the residential mixed density R3 zone in the yellow colour down the bottom, and then the mixed commercial residential C3 zone in kind of the lighter green colour. So it's an overall mixed bag of zoning surrounding the subject site. So this is the future land use designation map. The site and the lands directly to the north are in the industrial designation. The lands in yellow are in the residential designation, and the lands in red are in the commercial designation. So the future land use designation outlines what the general intent of the land is, and if changes are proposed to be made, what those changes can be. So Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 3.3.3 states that all industrial zones are permitted within the industrial designation, meaning the municipal planning strategy does not prohibit the change in zone from the heavy industrial M2 zone to the light industrial commercial M1 zone if all other policy components are met. So this is a hypothetical map showing what the rezoning would look like if it's approved in its current form, with this 1.94 acre portion directly abutting the existing M1 land. So this is an image looking at the area proposed to be rezoned, including the existing built form, which includes the post office here and then additional warehousing to the rear. So this is looking at the warehousing / space to the rear. And Highway 1 is over here. Oh, and then this is looking at Highway 1 here. This is not, I guess, a pile of snow from snow removal. This is the bank leading up to the zoning. Yes. So, in respect to public consultation, the 24 property owners were notified prior to the public information meeting, and letters were sent by mail. The PIM was set to be held on the 12th of February, but no members of the public were in attendance, only the applicant and one of the board members from the Scotian Gold. Since that time, the presentation has been made available on our website, and prior to the public information meeting, a notice was placed on the municipality's social media. So, moving into policy, Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 5.3.3 states that Council shall consider amendments to any one of the zoning maps of the land use bylaw, provided the application is for a specific development, which in this case is for a retail store, and point A is to rezone land to another zone enabled within the same designation. So as mentioned before, the industrial designation permits all industrial zones, so we can consider this change in zoning. Further to that, Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 5.3.5 states that Council shall consider in relation to all applications to rezone land, point A, the applicable zone placement policies, point B, the impact of both the specific development proposal and of other possible uses permitted through the zone, and point C, the general criteria for amending the land use bylaw as set out in section 5.3, development agreements and amending the land use bylaw. So, in respect to point A of the previous slide, we're looking at the zone placement policy, and that is set out in Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 3.3.1. And it states that lands within the light industrial commercial zone are intended to recognise and provide for the development of industrial uses with light impact. The light industrial commercial M1 zone will also permit development of non-retail commercial uses serving the industrial sector, as well as commercial uses requiring large areas of land for outdoor storage, outdoor commercial display or warehousing. So, the proposed rezoning has been requested to aid in the modification and expansion of an existing industrial operation, which largely comprises of agricultural processing. The site is centrally located within the community of Coldbrook, with access directly onto Highway 1, which is one of the county's main transportation routes. The properties directly opposite to the south and directly butting to the north are used for a range of industrial and commercial / agricultural purposes, with further afield residential uses. The proposed rezoning to the light industrial commercial M1 zone will support the continued use of the site for an agricultural-related industrial operation, which supports local agricultural uses while also permitting uses which are less intensive than what's currently allowed, and which are expected to have less of an impact on surrounding industrial and commercial uses and the wider residential community. So, this is the comparison between the existing M1 zone and the heavy industrial M2 zone and the proposed light industrial commercial M1 zone. So, the heavy industrial M2 zone permits a range of higher intensity uses than what's permitted in the potential zone. So the uses outlined in yellow are the ones that will no longer be permitted if we proceed with this rezoning to the M1 zone. And if we do proceed with this rezoning, we will gain the additional uses in orange. So what will no longer be permitted is animal byproduct plants, fish and seafood processing, fish farms, forest industry uses, holding yards, salvage and scrap operations, sanitary services, and waste transfer stations. What will be gained through the rezoning is the permitted uses of automotive sales and rentals, business offices, drive-in movie theatres, dry cleaning facilities, education facilities, funeral homes, goods and services shops, outdoor commercial displays, parking lots, retail stores, veterinary clinics, wildlife rescue and rehabilitation services. Okay, so moving on to the general criteria. We need to consider these in regards to any land use bylaw map amendment, and those are set out in Municipal Planning Strategy 5.3.7. So the rezoning application is considered to meet the intent of the Municipal Planning Strategy and does not conflict with any provincial or municipal programs, bylaws or regulations. There is not expected to be any financial impact on the municipality. As we looked at before, there are a range of commercial and industrial uses surrounding the site, and as this intended use of a retail store is considered to be less intensive, we're not expecting any land use compatibility issues. We referred the application to the Department of Public Works in regards to traffic on Highway 1, and they did not come back expressing any concern in regards to the proposed rezoning or land use. We referred the application out to the Kentville Fire Chief, and they confirmed there is adequate fire protection services and equipment available for this proposal. Similarly, we referred the application out to the Department of Environment regarding water, and they did not have any comments. We referred the application to our internal Department of Engineering and Public Works regarding sewer services, and they advised there is capacity if needed. We referred the application out to, again, our Department of Engineering and Public Works, and they have acknowledged that the site currently has a large surface area that is paved, so hard surfacing along with built form, so they're not expecting this change will have any great impact on the subject site or create any severe drainage or flooding issues. There's not expected to be any impacts on well fields nor on neighbouring farming operations, and the site is considered suitable. So once again, this was our land use bylaw map amendment process. We started with a completed application in November of 24. We had a PIM scheduled for February 12th, but no members of the public were in attendance. We followed that with staff review, and we are here today at the Planning Advisory Committee for your review. Following today, we will be proceeding to first reading, where the full Municipal Council will vote as to whether to authorise a public hearing. If a public hearing is authorised, properties within 500 feet will be notified by mail. And following that, there is second reading of the application, where the full Municipal Council will vote on whether to approve or refuse the application. And following that, there is a 14-day appeal period. And this is the recommendation. So the Planning Advisory Committee recommends that Municipal Council give first reading to and hold a public hearing regarding the application to rezone 1.94 acres of 7015 Highway 1, PID 55153811, Coldbrook, from the heavy industrial M2 zone to the light industrial commercial M1 zone, as described in Appendix C of the report dated March 11, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to give the committee now the opportunity to ask any questions of clarification. All right, hearing none, so we'll move on to approving the motion. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor McPherson, second by Councillor Gates. All right, please cast your vote. Motion passes. All right, on to the next item. Next on the agenda is an application to rezone a property on Ernst Drive in Aylesford. This application will also be presented by Ms. Bowman. Take it away.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Packford. I apologise, we seem to have had an automatic timing issue with the slides on the previous slides, so hopefully we won't have that happen again. Okay, so we are now here to look at another land use bylaw map amendment application or rezoning application at PID 55552640 Ernst Drive in Aylesford. So once again, we'll quickly run through the land use bylaw amendment process. So we received a completed application on August 21st, 2024, and a public information meeting was held on October 7th, 2024 at the Millville Community Centre, or Community Hall. 28 members of the public were in attendance, plus the applicants. Following that public information meeting, a staff review was undertaken, and then the application was presented to the Aylesford Village Commission by my colleague Alice Jacob, as unfortunately I was unwell, on January 20th, 2025. And then today we are here at the Planning Advisory Committee. Following today, we will be proceeding to first reading, which once again, where council will vote on whether to authorise a public hearing. Prior to any public hearing, properties within 500 feet will be notified again by letter mail. Following the public hearing, full municipal council will vote on whether to, on how to proceed with the application, and following that decision, there is a 14-day appeal period. Okay, so this is the proposal in regards to the Ernst Drive site. It does not have a civic number, it's just the property ID number, but we are looking to rezone the subject property from the residential 1 and 2 unit R2 zone to the residential mixed density R3 zone. And that is for the purposes of the development of 3 semi-detached dwellings, which would total 6 residential units and 24 townhouse units. So the residential mixed density R3 zone does not permit a greater density of dwellings in comparison to the current zone. It only permits a different built form option. So the land use bylaw differentiates between land uses based on built form in reference to residential units. So in this case, we are simply looking to change the zone to allow for a different built form option than what's currently permitted. Okay, so this is the map of the County of Kings, with the red circle indicating the approximate location of the subject site within the village of Aylesford. So this is an aerial image of the subject site. The site is 4.47 acres in area and is located on the southern side of Ernst Drive. It does have 2 areas of street frontage. The main area being, this central frontage here between 1032 and 1056 Ernst Drive, and that's 65 feet in width. And the second piece of frontage is 30 feet in width and sits between 1010 and 1020 Ernst Drive, here on the western side of the site. So I will note that the aerial imagery was, in the previous slide, was a tad outdated in that Percy Court has been fully constructed with semi-detached dwellings, and there are 24 residential units along Percy Court that have been, constructed in the form of semi-detached dwellings. Ooh. Okay, so this is the zoning map for the subject site. The site and surrounding land to the north, east and west is located in the residential 1 and 2 unit zone. These land to the south and further to the west is located in the rural mixed use A2 zone. This is the future land use designation map, as we kind of saw referenced with the residential zoning on the previous slide. The land to the north, east and west is located in the residential designation, and the land to the south is located in the agricultural designation. The Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 3.1.3 states that all residential zones are permitted within the residential designation, meaning that the Municipal Planning Strategy does not prohibit the rezoning if all other policy components are met. This is a hypothetical of what the rezoning would look like if it's approved in its current form, with the R3 zone covering just the subject site and then surrounded by the residential 1 and 2 unit zone on the north, east and west, and then the rural mixed use A2 zone to the south. So this is looking at the subject site's entrance. Again, it's heavily vegetated at the moment as it is vacant land, but we do have a house here and a house here, and then this central section here is where the proposed public road would go. So again, this is standing on the site with this track down the middle in the proposed location of the public road. So this is looking at the eastern boundary of the site between Percy Court and the subject site. So these semi-detached dwellings facing Percy Court, they sit higher than the ground level of the subject site. So this is looking at some of the semi-detached dwellings on Percy Court with the subject site to the rear of them. And then this is looking back out at Ernst Drive with some of the, I guess, more established residential dwellings. So in respect to public consultation, 56 property owners within 500 feet of the subject site were notified. The PIM was held at the Millville Community Hall on October 7th, 2024, and the presentation has been made available online since that time, and a notice was placed on municipal social media prior to the public information meeting. So, from that meeting, there were a range of concerns raised. This is a summarized list. There is a lot more information in the report that was attached to the agenda, but I will go through each of these now. I do apologize, we seem to be having the same timing issue with these slides. So, one of the main issues raised through the public information meeting was in regards to drainage and runoff. Many of the residents expressed that they have existing drainage issues, whether it's pooling water at certain times of the year, they have very wet backyards, or a range of other, I guess, water concerns that they've been dealing with. So they were very concerned that this proposal would further impact them or make conditions worse. So we referred the application to our Department of Engineering and Public Works with the concerns raised. So first off, the Department of Engineering advised that they would add Maple Avenue, Percy Court and Ernst Drive to their maintenance list. So they would go out and look at all the existing ditches and drains and see what they could do, whether there was anything they could do to, I guess, make the existing drainage work more efficiently within the scope of its current situation. Further to that, they advised that at this point, given that this is a rezoning, they would not be requesting a drainage plan, but the requirement for a drainage plan would be triggered at the subdivision and creation of a new road stage. So they would be assessing drainage at that point and confirming that post-development flows do not exceed pre-development flows, so not making the situation any worse effectively. The second major concern was in regards to well water. So we did refer the application out to the Nova Scotia Department of Environment and Climate Change, requesting any information they had, whether they were aware of any existing well water issues, and whether they required a drawdown study. No comments were received back from the Department of Environment, but given that the current density permitted on the site will not change with this rezoning, and the developer could come in tomorrow and apply to construct the same number of dwellings or residential units in a different built form, we're not expecting there to be any additional load in terms of well water than what is already existing. Another kind of bulk concern related to density of dwellings and the proposed townhouse form and how that related to safety, fire safety, noise and privacy. So as we saw in the site images, the site at the moment is fairly densely vegetated, and so they were worried that if the developer came in and as I would say, moonscaped the vegetation, they would lose a lot of their privacy. So during the public information meeting, the developer advised that they intended to leave some of the vegetation along that boundary with Percy Court, but again, there are no vegetation removal permit consent requirements. So they have full scope to do what they wish in terms of vegetation removal. There was also concern raised in that, let me go back to one of the maps so we can see. So Maple Avenue is the, I guess, one entrance to this subdivision, and so concern was raised that if there was a fire, how would they exit? So we did refer the application to the Aylesford Fire Chief in regards to this concern, and he said that this was fairly typical and didn't raise concern with having just one exit from this subdivision. Again, concern was raised in regards to, I guess, the density proposed and how that would have an impact in regards to noise and additional people in the area. So again, the rezoning would not permit a greater density of dwellings on the land. So we're not expecting there to be any increase in residential noise than what is already permitted on this current zone. The fourth set of concerns related to road safety, traffic generation, lack of sidewalks, streetlights, snow removal and such. So we did refer the application to both the Department of Public Works, who is the road authority for Maple Avenue, and our internal Department of Engineering and Public Works, who is the road authority for Ernst Drive and Percy Court, and will be the new road authority for the public road on this site. Neither required a traffic study be done, and were confident that the roads could accommodate the amount of traffic that would be generated from this site. In respect to sidewalks, the municipal planning strategy has a set of mapping which looks at where priority sidewalks would go, where the priority is for putting in new sidewalks. This subdivision is not on that list, and the closest sidewalk is back on Highway 1. So even if sidewalks were to be put in this subdivision, they wouldn't lead to anything at this time. In regards to street lighting, we do have a separate policy outside of the planning application process where residents can request street lighting if they wish to. In regards to snow removal, that would be considered at the subdivision stage when looking at the creation of a new road. Further to the road safety concerns raised, there was concern raised in regards to the, concerns were raised in regards to Maple Avenue and its condition and its width. So at the moment, Maple Avenue is quite a slender road. I think it's in some places probably 1.5 lanes wide. So there is a need for pulling over in some locations to allow others to go by. So we did, again, refer the application to the Department of Public Works, who is the road authority in that case, and asked whether they had any concern regarding the amount of traffic that would be associated with a proposal like this, noting again that the existing zone allows for this many dwellings on the land. And they did not come back with any concerns. One of the other prominent concerns was how this proposal would impact people's taxes and property values, and unfortunately that is not something we can consider through this application. So this is not something that would be considered through this application, but I did just want to note it based on the concerns raised by the residents and members of the public that attended the public information meeting. So this is looking at the land use bylaw and the requirements for lot size when looking at the minimum lot area we can have. So between the two zones, we can have multiple units on a piece of land with that minimum lot size being 2,000 square feet. So I guess this is just to highlight that the density between the two zones would not be changing, nor would the maximum building height requirements. One thing that I guess is changing to a certain extent by allowing greater numbers of units in terms of built form is the lot frontage, but that still isn't changing in respect to how many lots you could have on a piece of land. Okay, so moving on to policy, Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 5.3.3 states the council shall consider all amendments to any of the zoning maps of the land use bylaw, provided the application is for a specific development, which in this case we've been advised is for townhouses and semi-detached dwellings, and is to rezone land to another zone enabled within the same designation. And as we saw before, the residential designation permits all residential zones. So, further to that, Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 5.3.5 states that council shall consider in relation to all applications to rezone land. Point A, the applicable zone placement policies. Point B, the impact of both the specific development proposal and of other possible uses permitted in the proposed zone. And point C, the general criteria for amending the land use bylaw set out in section 5.3, development agreements and amending the land use bylaw. So, in regards to point A and the zone placement policy, for the residential mixed density R3 zone, it states that lands located in this zone are intended to provide a transition between areas of low and high density, or on properties that would benefit from flexible development options, including diversity of building form. This zone is intended to include residential units in a variety of building types at a density consistent with the residential 1 unit R1 zone and residential 1 and 2 unit R2 zone. So, I guess the subject site is highlighted in blue on this map. So the subject site is located in an existing residential subdivision on the periphery of the Aylesford Growth Centre. The site possesses an opportunity for infill development where you're in an established residential community and you have access to existing sewer services that can be utilised. And the density proposed is the same as the existing density allowed within the existing zone. The site would benefit from flexible development options and building forms permitted through the R3 or residential mixed density zone. And it would also maintain that density as shown between the two zones. The proposed development of townhouses and semi-detached dwellings provide a variety of housing options along with the other permitted uses, which we'll look at in the next slide, and would be consistent with the density of the residential 1 and 2 unit and residential 1 unit zone. So this is in respect to point B and the impact of both the specific proposed development proposal and other possible uses permitted. So the R2 zone permits group dwellings, 1 unit dwellings, semi-detached dwellings and 2 unit dwellings, while the R3 zone or residential mixed density zone permits group dwellings, multi-unit dwellings, 1 unit dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, townhouses and 2 unit dwellings. There is no change between the residential, non-residential uses. So again, while the R3 zone does permit a greater range of built form options, the density the density between the two zones will not change. So if you could have 20 units on the R2 zone, you can have 20 units on the R3 zone, but they could be in townhouse form or multi-unit dwelling form in comparison to what is permitted in the R2 zone. So, this is looking at, again, the general criteria as set out in Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 5.3.7. The proposal is considered to be in line with the intent of the municipal planning strategy and does not conflict with any municipal or provincial programs, bylaws or regulations. There's not expected to be any financial impact on the municipality. This would occur in the instance that we needed to construct new sewer lines or something to that effect. In terms of land use compatibility, all neighbouring land uses are used for residential purposes, including the land to the south, which is in the agricultural A2 zone. Rural mixed use A2 zone. So we are not expecting there to be any conflicts between existing residential uses and proposed residential uses. In regards to proximity of schools and recreation and community facilities, the subject site is less than 2 kilometres from the St Mary's Elementary School and is approximately a 5-minute drive from the West Kings District High School. The site is also within proximity to the Fire Hall baseball fields and the Kingston Rail Trail. In respect to the creation of traffic hazards or congestion, we did again refer the application out to both the Department of Public Works and our internal Department of Engineering and Public Works, and neither raised any concerns with the traffic generation from this proposal. Similarly, we refer the application out to our Aylesford Fire Chief, and they advised that there is fire protection services and equipment available for this proposal. We referred the application to our engineering team regarding sewer, and they advised there is capacity to service such a proposal. And we referred the application to the Department of Environment regarding well water, but heard nothing back from them. In regards to flooding, we did refer the application to our Department of Engineering again, who advised that they would be looking to do maintenance works on the surrounding ditches to ensure that everything is working as efficiently as it can in its current form. And at the subdivision phase for the creation of a new road, they would be requesting a engineering plan to look at drainage and confirm that the post-development flows do not exceed pre-development flows. We're not expecting there to be any impact on neighbouring farming operations, and the site is considered suitable based on its grade and soils. Okay, so once again, we received the application on August 21st, 2024, and a public information meeting was held on October 7th, 2024. Following the staff review, the application was presented to the Aylesford Village Commission, who were generally positive but did ask a few questions about the process and how things would work in regards to street lighting for the application. We are now at the Planning Advisory Committee phase, and following today we will proceed to first reading, where the full Municipal Council will vote on whether to proceed to a public hearing. Prior to any public hearing, properties within 500 feet will be notified again by mail. And following the public hearing, Municipal Council will vote on the application, and following that decision there is a 14-day appeal period. So, to the recommendation, the Planning Advisory Committee recommends that Municipal Council give first reading to and hold a public hearing regarding the application to rezone PID 55552640 Ernst Drive, Aylesford, from the residential 1 and 2 unit zone to the residential mixed density R3 zone, as described in Appendix C of the report dated March 11, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen. All right, now is the opportunity for members of the committee to ask any questions of clarification. Are there any questions? Councillor Gates.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, to the planner. Could I ask a question for clarification? There was some concern about streets and sidewalks, whether it's R2 or R3, and the residents could ask for that lighting afterwards. If it does go in afterwards, who would be responsible for the cost of those? Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Gates. So in regards to the street lighting, generally that cost is passed on to the residents of the neighbourhood through the policy that's in place, the regulations that's in place in the land use bylaw. In terms of the sidewalk, at this time, because it's within the village of Aylesford, I'm not 100% sure whether it is the County of Kings that would be responsible for the cost of that, or whether that would be the village of Aylesford, but I believe Director Javerick may be able to enlighten me on that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Because it's in the village, the responsibility of finding funding, construction, maintenance would all fall within the village. Yeah.
Any follow-ups, Councillor Gates? No. Right. All right, Councillor McPherson.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor, thank you very much, Ms. Bowman, for your presentation. My understanding is clear that the density does not change, so however many units are permitted on that piece of land are permitted in spite of the bill format. And the request simply is to change the bill format from what's permitted in R2 to an R3, and that results in the permission of townhouses or row housing. I think you might have said at the very beginning of your presentation, but can you clarify again, please, what the intent of the developer is to build there?
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor Packford. Let me jump back to the proposals. Sorry, bear with me. Yeah, okay. So the intent of the proposal is to have 4 rows of 6 townhouses, and then there would be 3 semi-detached dwellings, which would have a total of 6 residential units, so 30 units in total.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there's no further questions. We'll get on to moving the motion. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Gates, second by Logan Morse. Please cast your vote. Motion carries. All right. Thank you again, Ms. Bowman. On to other business. There's no other business, I believe, brought up earlier on. And seeing as we have no members of the public, I assume we will have no questions asked from the public. All right. Upcoming meetings. Next meeting will be April 8th at 1 p.m. And due to a scheduling conflict with both council chambers and planning staff, we will have to reschedule the PAC meeting in May. We have a suggested date of May 22nd at 1 p.m. All right. Can I get a mover to change that date? Moved by Councillor Gates, seconded by Ms. Friars. All right. Call. Yes, just note that is a Thursday. Please put that in your calendars. All right, can I have a call question? Right. Okay. All right. Move to vote. Please cast your vote. Motion carries. Yep. All right. Thank you. I guess we will have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Logan Moore, seconded by Councillor McPherson. Right. Thank you.